At the end of this video, you should be able to describe the appearance of 4 phases of the moon and explain how the movements of the moon affect tides on Earth. Phases of the moon. On some nights, the moon shines brightly enough for you to read a book by its light. But moonlight is not produced by the moon. The moon merely reflects light from the sun. Because the moon is spherical, half of it is always lit by sunlight. As the moon revolves around Earth, however, different amounts of the near side of the moon, which faces Earth, are lighted. Therefore, the apparent shape of the visible part of the moon varies. These varying shapes, lighted by the reflected sunlight, are called phases of the moon and are shown on the screen here. When the moon is directly between the sun and Earth, the sun's rays strike only the far side of the moon. As a result, the entire near side of the moon is dark. When the near side of the moon is dark, the moon is said to be in the new moon phase. During this phase, no lighted area of the moon is visible from Earth. Waxing phases of the moon. As the moon continues to move in its orbit around Earth, part of the near side becomes illuminated. When the size of the lighted part of the moon is increasing, the moon is said to be waxing. When a sliver of the moon's near side is illuminated, the moon enters its waxing crescent phase. When the moon has moved through 1/4 of its orbit after the new moon phase, the moon appears to be a semicircle. Half of the near side of the moon is then lighted. When the waxing moon becomes a semicircle, the moon enters its first quarter phase. When the lighted part of the moon's near side is larger than a semicircle and still increasing in size, the moon is in its waxing gibbous phase. The moon continues to wax until it appears to be a full circle. At full moon, Earth is between the sun and the moon. Consequently, the entire near side of the moon is illuminated by the light of the sun. Waning phases of the moon. After the full moon phase, when the lighted part of the near side of the moon appears to decrease in size, the moon is waning. When it is waning, but the lighted part is still larger than a semicircle, the moon is in the waning gibbous phase. When the lighted part of the near side becomes a semicircle, the moon enters the last quarter phase. When only a sliver of the near side is visible, the moon enters the waning crescent phase. After the waning crescent phase, the moon again moves between Earth and the sun. The moon once again becomes a new moon, and the cycle of phases begins again. Before and after a new moon, only a small part of the moon shines brightly. However, the rest of the moon is not completely dark. It shines dimly from sunlight that reflects first off of Earth's clouds and oceans, and then reflects off the moon. Sunlight that is reflected off Earth is called earthshine. The darker part of the moon shown on the screen here is lit by earthshine. Time from new moon to new moon. Although the moon revolves around Earth in 27.3 days, a longer period of time is needed for the moon to go through a complete cycle of phases. The period from one new moon to the next is 29.5 days. This difference of 2.2 days is due to the orbiting of the Earth-Moon system around the Sun. In the 27.3 days in which the moon orbits Earth, the two bodies move slightly farther along their orbit around the Sun. Therefore, the moon must go a little further to be directly between Earth and the sun. About 2.2 days are needed for the moon to travel this extra distance. The position between Earth and the sun is the position of the moon in each new moon phase.
You may have noticed that the moon's appearance changes every night. The different appearances of the moon due to its changing position relative to the sun and earth are called phases. When the moon is between Earth and the sunlit side of the moon is facing away from Earth. From Earth we cannot see the moon. This phase is known as the new moon. As the moon revolves around the Earth, we see more of the sunlit side each night. The moon is waxing as it grows to a crescent through first quarter and then to a full moon. After full moon, we gradually see less of the sunlit side each night. The moon is waning as it changes from full through third quarter to a crescent and then to a new moon. The moon completes the cycle of phases in 1 month.
Tides on Earth. Bulges in Earth's oceans, called tidal bulges, form because the moon's gravitational pull on Earth decreases with distance from the moon. As a result, the ocean on Earth's near side is pulled toward the moon with the greatest force. The solid Earth, which acts as though all of its mass were at Earth's center, experiences a lesser force. The ocean on Earth's far side is subject to less force than the solid Earth is. As shown on the screen here, these differences cause Earth's tidal bulges. Because Earth rotates, tides occur in regular rhythm at any given point on Earth's surface each day. The sun also causes tides, but they are smaller because the sun is so much farther from Earth than the moon is. At this point, you should be able to describe the appearance of 4 phases of the moon and explain how the movements of the moon affect tides on Earth.